You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Good afternoon and welcome to Live at 4, everyone. We have breaking news. The man charged with killing Ingrid Valverde Ponce will have a trial.
A judge has found there is enough evidence for 23-year-old Gerson Blasnoy to go to trial, and that was during a court appearance today. Blasnoy is charged with first-degree homicide, giving false information about a person, and hiding a corpse. Those charges stem from the death of 27-year-old Valverde Ponce. She was missing earlier this month, and within days, police had arrested Blasnoy and found her body. Online court records do not say when Blasnoy will be in court next, but we know he will remain in the Dane County Jail with an $800,000 cash bond.
Madison police are looking for the people involved in 2 hit-and-runs last night. Around 9:30, officers saw a white sedan run a red light at the intersection of John Nolan Drive and Willie Street. The sedan drove away, hitting a curb and a parked car near Willie Street and South Patterson. Later, officers received reports of what seems to be the same white sedan crashing into a parked car on Atwood Avenue. Witnesses say they saw 2 people run from the vehicle, where police found a stolen gun and marijuana. If you have any information about the hit and runs, you can call the Madison Area Crime Stoppers. That number is there on your screen, and you can also submit an anonymous tip at p3tips.com.
Now let's go outside for our first warn forecast. Meteorologist Jacob Montesano is out there. What's going on, Jacob?
Well, it's less windy, that's for sure, and that has made the temperatures feel even milder. But honestly, I almost contemplate not even bringing the coat out here because temperature is very comfortable. And as we take a look at the current wind speeds, if you remember this time yesterday, they were up over 20 miles per hour. Most of our area still a little bit breezy at times, 15 miles per hour in Monroe, 18 in Janesville, but only 9 here in Madison, and the wind gusts aren't too bad either. As we take a look at the current temperatures, they are very comfortable out here. Lower 40s for all of southern Wisconsin, 30s as you get towards the central portion of the state, but still above average for those locations. As we take a look at the wind gusts, the light wind we're seeing right now is going to get even lighter for the evening, but it will pick up by the time we get to tomorrow morning. Now, there is one negative with this forecast. Because of the winds and the mild temperatures, as well as the lack of snow that we've seen, there actually is an elevated fire risk right now. So although I encourage everyone to definitely spend some time outdoors because it's going to be very nice tomorrow, definitely just be aware of that elevated fire risk. Again, it'll mostly be during the morning when it's going to be breezy. The winds will be better by the time we get to the afternoon and evening. So taking a look at this evening's forecast, we'll see temperatures in the 30s with partly cloudy skies. Again, very calm winds, so the temperatures won't feel that cold. And as we look at the overnight forecast, lows will only drop into the upper 20s, pretty similar to the average high for this time of the year. But I'll talk more in detail about the possible record-breaking temperatures tomorrow. I'll have the details a little bit later.
Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, isn't that the truth? It's been so warm out. I'm not even thinking about snow. No. What is that?
We wouldn't recognize it, right? But still, our Kyle Pozorski is at Winterfest, Lake Geneva, talking with sculptors and people there from around the country making art from snow.
This is the 30th year that Lake Geneva has hosted this event, and even though there isn't any snow on the ground, that isn't stopping this event from taking place. Large blocks of compacted snow 10 feet high get shipped into Lake Geneva for this event. Sculptors from as near as Milwaukee, as well as some from Alaska, coming here to take part. This year, 15 teams are bringing their skills to town. Josh Jacobowski is part of one of the teams representing Wisconsin. He says the warm weather can have an impact, but through some past experience, he's learned several ways to mitigate any melting issues.
We're going to try and get as much done today as we can, and then tomorrow during the day it's going to be 52 or 54. During the day, we would cover the whole sculpture up and just go and sleep or do some work from our rooms and stuff like that.
Winterfest continues at the Riviera Plaza and Flatiron Park through Sunday, February 2nd. In Lake Geneva, Kyle Pozorski, News 3 Now.
Kyle, thank you. And tomorrow, Winterfest welcomes visitors to check out the Downtown Ice Sculpture Walk. That will have close to 40 sculptures outside all of those downtown shops.
At the nation's capital, President Trump's pick to lead the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is in the hot seat. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appeared before the Senate Finance Committee today, answering questions regarding his stance on abortion, vaccines, and the nation's healthcare system. We will have more from that hearing later on Live at 4. 3 candidates are in the race raised to be the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's top official. The state superintendent oversees public education all across the state.
And our Ellie La Liberté is profiling the candidates so you know what the future of Wisconsin education could look like.
The three candidates are education consultant Brittany Kinzer, Sauk Prairie Superintendent Jeff Wright, and incumbent Jill Underly. I sat down with Underly to hear what she says a second term would bring. Testing standards are at the forefront of the race to become Wisconsin's next superintendent. In 2024, Underly's administration made the move to change benchmarks for the state's forward exam. This lowers the score at which students meet expectations. It also changes how students' progress is labeled. The decision is controversial. Governor Tony Evers and former DPI superintendent condemned the decision. There is also proposed legislation from Republicans to undo these changes, but Underly defends the move.
I think people are just really misunderstanding it. I think initially, with the misunderstanding, people were saying that I lowered standards, and that was not the case at all. What we did is we changed the cut scores, and so the critics are absolutely getting it wrong.
Both Wright and Kinzer have also criticized Underly's move to change standards. I'll finish these candidate profiles this Friday when I sit down with Sauk Prairie Superintendent Jeff Wright. I also spoke with education consultant Brittany Kinzer last week. For more on our conversation, you can visit channel3000.com.
Thank you, Ellie. The field narrows to two candidates after the February 18th primary election. Voters make a final decision on April 1st. We'll have more information about that election coming up on Live at 4.
And still ahead on Live at 4, RFK Jr.'s journey before the Senate is underway.
His response upon being confronted with his past comments on COVID and abortion when we come back.
Welcome back, everyone. While national politics tends to take center stage big time, state and local governments are critical as well.
One of the main driving forces of maintaining the services we have, the state budget. Joining us now to break down how that process works and the importance of the upcoming primary, our friend, political analyst Brandon Scholes. Hello.
Nice to see you.
So this budget process, everyone gets along, lawmakers come together, and it's easy peasy, right?
And they have a nice dinner after everybody goes home. Yeah, nice bottle of wine.
Seriously,
No.
what is the process to get here?
Before we get to the fisticuffs,
Yeah.
it really is a very long process. So when people hear about what the state is going to do and what programs they're going to spend on, this started back in August when state agencies, agency by agency, would go through their budget, their programs. They would send it to the governor through a process that gets sent back, and he'd say, cut this, add this. But along about, say, October, November, those agencies have really kind of fine-tuned what they were going to do, how much money they have, what they have to cut or add in. And that's when they kind of get it to the governor, although he's been included along the way. But come November, December, the governor's focusing then on putting his final imprint onto it. And then he kind of reveals some of the ideas, some of the themes in the State of the State, which we just heard not too long ago, up to February when the governor formally introduces his budget.
And we have an election coming up, too.
Well, we have a spring election coming up as
Right.
well. And so that's going to be an interesting twist on everything else.
Right. Intertwining.
Yes, but in the governor's budget, they have themes that they will try and do. This year, the governor's identified the year of the kid, and so that brings in all sorts of additional issues like, education. It'll bring in crime. It'll bring in food, meals, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and some of the things, you touched on them, but I've already seen Speaker Voss has called a lot of those things for mental health resources, child care, and then the gun violence protection. I believe he called them liberal wish lists or wishes. So how likely is it that the Republican-led legislature is going to go for some of these ideas?
Typically in the past, when you have split government, you see one side taking their issues and their budget going this way. And in this case, if the Republicans have a majority in the legislature, they will take the budget and say, thank you very much, and then they will scrap parts of it, put their own in. They might find some things to compromise on and build. A lot of the themes are not necessarily something that the other side doesn't like. It's a question of the path on how to get there. So when the governor delivers the budget to the legislature, then for months, you're going to see the Committee on Joint Finance have hearings around the state, and people can go testify at these hearings. They get about 3 minutes, but there'll be 3 or 4 hearings around the state, and people can give their input on this budget that's being put together, because it won't be final until the end of May, into June, when the legislature eventually approves what the committee does, and then it goes to the governor, he has a chance to veto it. So we have a very long process. Nothing's rushed in this process. It's all very transparent.
And it's important that people stay tuned and get involved. And so first we were talking about this $300 million year of the kid, but you were mentioning before we were on air about previous governors doing pretty extraordinary things that didn't quite happen.
Sure. If you look back to all the governors that we've had, from going back to Scott Walker, who had Act 10, you go back to Tommy Thompson, who had welfare to work. Tommy Thompson had a huge 6-foot veto pencil that he carried around the state. Scott McCallum had to fix a $1.2 billion deficit. We're talking about $3 billion surplus this year. McCallum had to fix a $1.2 billion deficit. So while each governor has their themes and they try and incorporate those into it, there's so much that happens on the outside. Everybody else has themes too. So, they really try and say, this is kind of what I'm going after. They try and stick with it, but this is a very fluid process.
And before we wrap up, I think a lot of people might be feeling some election fatigue, but we have some big ones coming up, including the Supreme Court. And we were just talking about the Secretary of the Department of Instruction. How important are these local races?
Oh, they are so important. And you are right, election fatigue, because come February 15th, we have a primary here in Wisconsin for spring elections. And in the spring elections, either in the primary in February or the general in April, you'll see, for the big ones, everybody's talking about the Supreme Court. That is the big one. Department of Public Instruction, that too is huge, because it's going to drive so many things, especially if you're familiar with what happens in Milwaukee in public schools there. It's been really tough. But this is when judges get elected. This is when mayors, county executives, circuit court judges, appellate court judges, dog catchers, clerks, you name it, anything can be in the ballot, as well as referendums. And we will have a referendum on photo ID. And we'll have all sorts of things maybe in April as well. So the governors try to get some things in there too. But this is an election that doesn't draw many people. Typically,
it's too bad.
20% come out. Absolutely. Now, in the last election, the Supreme Court was big news, and it was $55 million, and you couldn't go to sleep at night not knowing there was an election. And the same thing's going to happen this year. But hopefully people will look at what's going on in their own neighborhoods, their own communities, and decide whether or not they're going to elect those local officials who really run almost everything. I mean, that's where it all starts to happen. So hopefully more than 20% turnout in February and April. But those elections are coming, and they're big.
And you do a great job helping viewers understand why it's important to pay attention. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. There's so many resources they could go to. Everybody's website to start with, but your local municipality, the elections board, everybody can give you information on what's coming up. And we'll talk more about that as time goes on.
Sounds
Very
great.
good. Yeah. Thank you for being on with us. We'll see you soon.
Take care. All right, let's get a look at your first warn forecast. We have Jacob.
Yeah, we're going to continue to see very mild temperatures. In fact, tomorrow, it might be the mildest day of the year so far. Now, we are going to see a little bit of a light drizzle, maybe a mix of some wet snow Thursday night into Friday morning, with some more light precipitation chances over the weekend. But in both cases, we are not expected to see much at all. So looking at the wind gust forecast, again, it is going to get better throughout the evening, picking back up for Thursday morning. But these southerly winds Thursday will bring in some of those warmer temperatures. And by the time we get to the evening Thursday, the winds will be very calm, and throughout the weekend, they're not going to be too bad at all. So the windiest days, at least in the near future, are behind us. Now, as we take a look at those high temperatures for tomorrow, we're going to be in the lower 50s for just about everybody. Could even get into the middle 50s for some areas. And we'll also see sunshine for much of the day. We will see some clouds develop later in the day for far southern Wisconsin. But beyond that, enjoy the weather. It is going to be very, very mild out there. And it's going to continue to be mild as we head into the weekend. As we'll have high temperatures in the lower 40s, middle to upper 30s, maybe even back near 50 for Sunday. Now, for next week, it is going to feel more like winter, close to what we normally see. But notice, now that we get to February, the average temperature is going to start to warm up, and it's warm right now, so it's only going to get warmer from here. Now, it's going to be so mild to the point that we're likely going to break a record tomorrow. The current record is 47, forecasted high is 53. Likely not going to break the record for the warmest low temperature, as will be the forecasted low for tomorrow is quite below the record, but still, if all things go as what we are expecting them to go, pretty easily going to break the record for Thursday. And we also could break it for Sunday. Forecasted high is 48, and the record is 51. So we're talking about very, very unseasonably mild temperatures the next couple of days. And as far as rainfall goes, we're not going to see much of it. We could see some light showers Thursday evening into Friday morning, especially for far southern Wisconsin, but the heaviest rain will stay south. Could even see some light snow mix in as the low temperatures will be right around 30, so they could get below freezing. But that will clear out later in the morning Friday. We will see cloudy skies to start Friday, but we'll see partly sunny skies later in the day. Now, as we head towards the weekend, there's another chance of some light precipitation, but it looks like the majority of that precipitation will stay in northern Wisconsin in the form of snow, but we could see some light rain Saturday night into Sunday. But in both instances, not expecting too much.
Thanks, Jacob. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrapped up his first day of Senate hearings.
Earlier today, lawmakers on the Senate Finance Committee grilled the president's controversial nominee to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. Questions ranged from his changing views on abortion to his skepticism of vaccines. Democrats on the committee were looking for answers about why Kennedy flipped his views on abortion. Kennedy recently identified as pro-choice. However, the Trump administration opposes most cases of abortion.
Did you say on a podcast, and I quote, "I wouldn't leave abortion, to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term." Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy?
Now, Kennedy was asked about past comments as well that he made floating anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about the COVID-19 pandemic.
Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people, but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH-published study.
Kennedy will return to the nation's capital tomorrow for more Senate hearings. To the White House now, where President Donald Trump is having a very busy second week.
Earlier today, the president rescinded a memo to freeze all federal funding after widespread backlash. Governor Tony Evers is responding to that move.
In a statement, the governor said despite the administration rescinding that memo, it plans to move forward with the implementing of policy, citing a post on X from the president's press secretary.
The governor's statement reads in part, "This is a concept of a plan that should not be implemented, salvaged, or resurrected in this form or in any other. I was clear yesterday that this reckless policy decision would cause unnecessary chaos for our kids, families, seniors, farmers, and emergency services. It did, and it still is."
But in a win for the administration, the president is getting his first legislative victory. Today, he signed the Locken-Riley Act into law. This prioritizes deportating undocumented people accused of crimes ranging from theft to violence before they've actually been convicted.
The Department of Defense is investigating General Mark Milley. Milley served as the nation's top uniformed officer during the president's first term. President Trump would go on to accuse Milley of treason and said in the past such behavior would warrant the death penalty. In turn, Milley called Trump a fascist and said he's the greatest threat to America. Milley received a preemptive pardon from former President Joe Biden, so Milley cannot be prosecuted under criminal and military law, but his rank could be reduced if wrongdoing is found.
Now, the owner of Truth Social is expanding into financial services now. The Trump Media and Technology Group will launch Truth FI. This is to introduce investment vehicles. Company officials say its board has already approved of plans to diversify cash holdings into crypto-based areas. That includes exchange-traded funds and Bitcoin. You may remember the president launched this social media platform back in 2022. He then transferred his majority stake in the company to a revocable trust where his son is the only trustee. Now, coming up on Live at 4, a local business giving back.
Josh Sprider shows us how you can be a part of the cause in the 608. We'll be right back. In the 608, you have another opportunity to support the Abundant Life Christian School today.
Josh Sprider is here with how that includes feeding your family.
We are so fortunate to live in a community that's always focusing on giving back, and that effort's still continuing more than 6 weeks after the shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. Happening today, Wednesday, January 29th, Papa Murphy's locations in the 608 are hosting Dine to Donate. They're giving back 50% of online sales for the entire day when someone uses the code BELIEVE at checkout. This is going directly back to the Abundant Life Christian School. These locations are, and listen for your community, Baraboo, DeForest, Janesville, Madison, Middleton, Monona, Monroe, Oregon, Platteville, Portage, Prairie du Sac, Reedsburg, Richland Center, Stoughton, Sun Prairie, Verona, and Wanakee. Now, this Dine to Donate fundraiser comes after Papa Murphy's donated 400 pizzas to Abundant Life earlier this month. These pizzas were given specifically to students, faculty, and staff at the school in the hopes for them being able to enjoy with their families. In a statement from Papa Murphy's, they tell me the local franchisees are just doing their part to show support to local families in a time where they have been going through the worst. You can learn more about how to help ALCS by going to this story at channel3000.com. In the 608, I'm Josh Breiter, News 3 Now.
Thanks, Josh. Up next on Live at 4, the nation's report card is out.
The alarming gap Wisconsin has among its students and how the state superintendent says we can fix it.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Welcome back, everyone. The weather words today. The blue sky.
Isn't that nice?
And the sunshine.
Brings us some peace, doesn't it?
Yes. Flirting, we're talking about. Flirting with record warmth. I enjoyed some of it today.
Good for you. You were out running?
I was.
Oh, that sounds nice, Jacob. Good running weather.
Yeah, and it's going to be even nicer tomorrow. We're going to have high temperatures in the 50s for pretty much everybody. But looking at the temperatures right now, they're mostly in the 40s, so it's definitely very comfortable out here. And the wind has not really been a huge factor today, certainly a lot calmer compared to Monday and Tuesday. We also are seeing very dry conditions in southern Wisconsin. This would all be very nice, except for the fact that we do have an elevated fire risk due to the low humidity values, the mild temperatures, and we're still going to see some breezy conditions the next couple of days. So although I encourage everyone to definitely spend some time outside, just be aware of that elevated fire risk. Now, as we take a look at future track, we'll see some passing clouds during the evening, especially north of Madison, but we'll see very clear skies later in the night into Thursday morning, and much of Thursday will be very sunny on top of those mild temperatures, with maybe some clouds developing later in the day. Lows tonight will drop into the upper 20s with clear skies by the morning. These lows very similar to the average high that we normally see this time of the year. And then here's a look at tomorrow's forecast. I mean, that is just gorgeous considering the average high is still 27 degrees. We may be over 25 degrees above that. So very mild weather, but it's not going to last forever. However, we're still going to see more mild temperatures for the weekend. I'll have the details on that coming up a little bit later.
Sounds good. Thank you. We're taking a look at how Wisconsin compares to the rest of the country when it comes to our students' math and reading skills.
The nation's report card is out today, measuring the reading and math abilities of 4th and 8th graders. In 2024, the majority of 4th graders nationwide did not meet the threshold of at or above proficiency for either subject. The same is true for 8th graders. Compared to 2022, average reading scores declined for both grades. The average math score increased for 4th graders. The average math score for 8th graders didn't change.
And in Wisconsin, 8th grade math is among the top in the nation. 4th graders were consistent with the national average. Now, there were no significant declines for reading scores. One striking point of data, though, Wisconsin has the widest black to white opportunity gap. State Superintendent Jill Underlay says that's been a problem for the state for 2 decades.
There is a correlation between poverty and student achievement. Let's get high quality teachers into those classrooms, but we have to pay them. We can't do that if we have a teacher shortage, right? We have to feed the kids. We have to invest in mental health. We have to put the money into the classroom, invest in the programs like career and tech ed and STEM. You see these things in well-funded school districts.
And she's calling on the legislature to include an increase in funding for schools in the biennial budget.
People all over the country are feeling uncertain about the future of federal funding for their business, organization, or even their livelihood.
Our Merrill Hubbard spoke with big brothers and big sisters of Dane County to see how they're fundraising while funding is in flux.
We don't want to stop doing that work regardless of what happens at a higher level with our national government.
Sandy Morales is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Dane County, a nonprofit organization that empowers and educates children through mentorship. The organization, along with more than 15 other locations in Wisconsin, is partnering with the NFL Inspire Change for their Big Draft campaign. This campaign comes ahead of the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, and their goal is to raise funds and inspire more volunteers to join their efforts.
I think it's just important for the community to know that we really rely on people. We rely on people to volunteer and step up and spend time with the young person. But for those that cannot do that, we definitely welcome the support, the financial support.
Through their partnership with the NFL Inspire Change, Big Brothers Big Sisters will have fundraising events from February to April. More information can be found on their website. Reporting in Madison, Meryl Hubbard, News 3 Now.
Well, new today, another development in the Trump administration's pause on federal funding that threw much of the nation into confusion yesterday.
The White House rescinded that memo, but as Arman Rahman found, local governments are still on edge after being caught so off guard. Is that right, Arman?
That's right, Brady and Sarah. Yesterday, I spoke to several nonprofits and agencies across the county who were worried about their futures. Today, Dane County Executive Melissa Agard tells me they were fielding a lot of those questions and fear in her office. Yesterday, the Trump administration officials said by the end of the day, there would be a freeze on federal grants and loans as they conducted an ideological review to make sure spending aligned with Trump's executive orders on climate change, transgender rights, and diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Agard says even though a federal judge temporarily blocked that from happening yesterday, minutes before it was set to take effect, she doesn't want to be left scrambling again.
We're going to have to be innovative. We're going to have to keep our fingers on the pulse of what's happening in D.C. And that, frankly, is challenging because they don't want to be doing it in a way that is making it easy for us, right? Like there is intentional chaos in how these messages are being delivered to local governments.
Agard says federal funds help pay for everything from public safety to child protective services to economic development and housing in the county. Her staff is working on developing a list of where federal money goes, but it's complicated because some comes through the state. Now, the White House says despite the confusion, they still plan to review federal spending and implement Trump's executive orders in all agencies and departments.
Thank you, Arman. The Federal Reserve will not cut interest rates. The central bank hit pause on its cuts in the first key decision it has made during President Trump's second term. Officials opted to keep borrowing costs at a range between 4.25 and 4.5%. Officials say that while they're still confident inflation will eventually reach their 2% goal, there's been some stalling. That's having an effect on Wall Street. The Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P 500 all down. The Dow dropped 137 points, the NASDAQ lost 101, and the S&P 500 lost 28 points.
And just moments after President Trump decided to rescind the federal funding freeze, a small group met at the Capitol to protest the administration.
Our Tanisha Shaw talked with those gathered about the changes they'd like to see.
Protesters at the Capitol Wednesday say they're scared.
There's so many things going on with this new administration, and they're just kind of shocking and awing everybody.
President Trump officially started his term January 20th. I spoke to a parent that is afraid of the future for their kids because of the administration change.
I have kids, and I'm really scared for their future, and I'm scared for what this could look like going forward with everything that's, trying to get through right now. And if we don't stand up now, then eventually they come for me, they come for my kids, and I have to stand up now while I can.
The group also protested against any Social Security reductions.
Well, I am of an age where I just retired, and I will be, using Social Security and Medicare eventually. And this is something that I and millions of Americans have paid into. It's not a charity. It's not a giveaway from the government.
Reporting in Madison, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Tanisha. We'll have more on that protest during our next newscast at 5.
And we'll be right back.
Well, here's a live look at Waukesha, and we have some swimmers out there.
Oh, they look happy to see things melting. And it's melting here, too. We have nothing on the ground.
It's been so warm out lately, Jacob.
Yeah, and for tomorrow, it's only going to get warmer. In fact, tomorrow will likely be, if not the warmest day of the year, one of them, as we're going to see high temperatures in the 50s. And as we take a look at the weekend, we do have a chance of some light rain and maybe some light snow mixed in as well. But for the most part, both of these precipitation chances will not amount to much. So the winds are going to be calm throughout the rest of the evening. But as we get towards tomorrow morning, they are going to increase a little bit. We'll see wind gusts up around 20 to 25 miles per hour, especially for the morning. But these will bring in those warmer temperatures. So as we take a look at the highs for tomorrow, they're going to be in the middle to lower 50s. And even areas in central Wisconsin could be seeing these 50s. Pretty much everyone will see temperatures extremely above average for this time of the year. So much so that we're actually going to be seeing record highs across southern Wisconsin. And if the forecast stays, if the forecast is what we think it's going to be, we'll pretty easily break that record because the previous record, 47, our forecasted high is 53. Now, as far as the low temperatures, we likely aren't going to break the record for the warmest low. Forecasted high of 31 is 8 degrees below the record of 39. But as we get towards Sunday, we could be talking about record highs again. Forecasted high is 48, record is 51. So there's going to be multiple days with very, very unseasonably mild temperatures throughout the next several days. Now, as we take a look at the rainfall forecast, this is Thursday evening. We could see some light showers move into far southern Wisconsin, especially for you folks near the Wisconsin-Illinois border. Heaviest will stay south of Wisconsin entirely, and Madison and areas north will likely not see precipitation during this time. This will mostly be for Thursday evening through early Friday morning. Later in the morning Friday, it will clear out. We're going to start out very cloudy for everybody, but then we'll see clear skies later in the day, at least partly sunny skies by the time we get to sunset on Friday. But then we'll see more clouds as we head into the weekend. Now, taking a look at the precipitation chances over the next 7 days, we have a little bit of an increase in those chances Thursday, Friday, but that's mostly for areas south of Madison. And then we have another chance Saturday, kind of later Saturday into early Sunday. But even this chance of precipitation will likely not amount to much. So as we take a look at the 7 to 10 day forecast, we are going to be very dry. Do want to point out that Groundhog's Day is this Sunday. We'll likely see a good amount of cloud cover that day, but those temperatures very, very mild. We're going to have highs in the upper 40s. But unfortunately, for a good chunk of next week, we're going to have high temperatures in the upper 20s to lower 30s. And that's very close to average for this time of the year. However, as we get into next week, obviously that will be the start of February, the average temperature is slowly going to warm up. So these temperatures that are very mild, we're likely going to see milder temperatures in not too long. So although it is going to cool down for next week, we are getting towards February, which is on the second half of spring, or winter, I should say, for sure. But tomorrow is going to feel like spring in itself with those 50s in the forecast, and even the weekend, very mild.
Thank you, Jacob. And a quick reminder before we head to break, News 3 Now is once again collaborating with Babies and Beyond for this year's Community Baby Shower. We're trying to get families in Dane County all of the essentials. Now, today is day 3 of the event, but you have until Friday to pitch in. You can drop off your donations at Babies and Beyond on Stoughton Road. For a full list of the items that we are looking for, just go to this story on channel3000.com. We'll be right back. On the next Live at 4, why LGBTQ advocates are concerned the Supreme Court could reconsider same-sex marriage.
We talk with constitutional law expert Howard Schweber about the chances of that happening. Officially underway, the IRS began accepting and processing tax returns Monday.
The deadline to file is April 15th, and there are some important new changes taxpayers should know. Jen Sullivan has some advice to help you through the process of filing.
You can now begin filing your 2024 taxes, and there are benefits to filing early.
One of the biggest benefits is the refund.
Lisa Green-Lewis with TurboTax says the sooner you file, the sooner you'll receive a refund if you're owed money. Last year, the IRS says the average refund was slightly over $3,100.
For some people, that's the biggest check they get all year.
If you make a mistake, you'll have plenty of time to fix it after the IRS notifies you of an error.
One of the most common mistakes is just gathering the wrong Social Security number for your dependents.
One of the biggest changes this year, if you were paid for goods or services through a payment app or online marketplace, and the transactions combined exceeded $5,000, you may get a 1099-K.
When you sign up for those platforms to either take payment or make sales, they're going to take all of your information, your personal information and the like, probably your Social Security number or an EIN if you're a business. So they're going to issue it right to you.
Andy Phillips with H&R Block says taxpayers who have had a life-changing event in 2024 will also see big changes. That means if you got married, had a child, purchased a home for the first time, moved to a new state, or started receiving Social Security. For parents who file jointly and make less than $400,000 a year, you could receive a child tax credit for all children under the age of 17 at the end of the tax year.
Up to $1,700 of that $2,000 is refundable. What that means is you can get that even if you don't owe taxes.
Other tax credits offered up to $7,500 for buying an electric vehicle. And if you made any energy-efficient changes to your home, you could also qualify for a credit. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Most tax filers will receive a refund within 21 days after it's received by the IRS. If you're unable to file by the April 15th deadline, you can apply for an extension. After a roughly 3-year downturn in sales and performance, Wisconsin-based retailer Kohl's is laying off roughly 10% of its corporate headquarters staff. That's located in Menominee Falls. Right now, the company employs about 4,000 people there. TSO This move will cut around 400 jobs. The decision comes as a new CEO takes over. However, Kohl's says half of the job cuts are unfilled positions. Kohl's has not said how many filled jobs are included in this round of layoffs. Well, and coming up on Live at 4, a shakeup at a popular coffee chain.
And later, what items on Starbucks menu you'll have to say goodbye to. Welcome back, everyone. Coffee lovers heading to Starbucks can expect to see a scaled-down menu. I know this will cause panic for some. The coffee giant is cutting about 30% of its drink and food items. The new streamlined menu is expected to simplify ordering and speed up the service. Now, it's unclear, though, which specific items are going away. This is change as part of the plan to make Starbucks more profitable. This is after the company saw its 4th consecutive quarter of declines at the end of last year. Starbucks' new menu is expected to be rolled out in the coming months, and everybody right now is going, ooh, don't let go of this. Are you a big Starbucks person?
I am. As long as I can get my iced Americano with a half a pump of white mocha, I will not throw a fit. I will be happy.
But you'll throw a fit.
I will. You'll watch out for me, everyone, if you see me. No, I think that's safe, but yeah, we'll see.
And I am a local coffee.
Yeah, that's better.
But when I'm out and about, the egg white bites.
Oh,
had those
yeah.
to eat.
Those are very handy.
I don't think they're going to get rid of those. Those are very popular.
Oh, good. Okay.
I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just saying they're very popular.
I'm going to be right about that.
I mean, I would be surprised. That's all I'll say.
All right. So on the forecast, you were talking about this is the first time we've seen a warm up.
Yeah, so average temperatures throughout all of fall and so far this winter continuing on a decline. We're pretty much at that time of year now, starting next week, where the average temperature is going to start to warm up. However, next week is going to be colder than these next couple of days. Obviously, it's not super consistent. I'm just talking about the average high, but very mild tomorrow, still mild over the weekend, but cooler next week. Overall, pretty dry, just a few small chances of rain.
Enjoy your egg bites while you can, everyone. We'll be right back. Tomorrow on Live at 4, a constitutional law expert joins us to talk about whether the Supreme Court could overturn the ruling that legalizes same-sex marriage. And later on News 3 Now at 6, more from Elie LaLiberté's one-on-one with State Superintendent Jill Underly about her re-election campaign. Thanks for watching Live at 4 today. We'll see you back here tomorrow. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.